Well, it is 2021 nominations morning. The sun has not even come up here on the West Coast, but that's not stopping us from giving you A plus coverage of the 2021 Oscar nominations. I'm Marcus James Dixon. I'm here with Zach Laws and Daniel Montgomery. And I guess the big takeaway is Mank with 10 nominations. It's the only film to get 10 or more. But does that necessarily mean it's the front runner? Who wants to jump in with that leading question?
I'll jump in because the answer is pretty decisively no. Not that it's impossible for it to win Best Picture, but like it missed Best Editing, and Birdman is the only film in the last 30 some odd years to win Best Picture with an editing nomination. Even Green Book got an editing nomination. I think the bigger one is missing Best Writing, Best Original Screenplay for Jack Fincher. This is a movie about a screenwriter. It's a movie with it's dialogue heavy. It's not like, one of those movies you wouldn't expect to get a screenplay nomination. This is a movie that if it was a top contender, you'd think it would be an obvious screenplay contender.
And it had the narrative because David Fincher's father wrote it and then he died before they could get it, made.
It's such a weird thing, but yeah, I feel like those two take it pretty much out because I think no film has won without a writing nomination since Titanic.
Well, yeah, that's true. And I mean, it is really sad. I know there's a lot of like Mank hate out there. I'm personally a big fan of it. And, it really is, it almost seems cruel for them to nominate it in 10 categories and not nominated in screenplay when you consider that the entire reason that David Fincher made this movie was to honor his late father. And, it feels almost like a slap in the face. Now, all things considered, the 5 screenplays that were nominated are really good screenplays. So there's nothing in there that you could say like, well, that should not be there in place of Mank. But, it really does hurt its chances. Even though it is the only, like, I was counting up the nominations for each film, and there's nothing that even comes close to the amount of bids that it got. It's so funny because last year we had 4 films that got double-digit nominations, and this year we only have 1. And it's, I think maybe in like 5th place at best.
So here's the list of what you're referring to. So Mank is at 10, and then we have 6 movies at 6 nominations apiece. We have The Father, Judas and the Black Messiah, Minari, Nomadland, Sound of Metal, and The Trial of the Chicago 7. And then we have 2 at 5. We have Promising Young Woman, and we have Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. And of all those movies I just mentioned, Ma Rainey is the only one to not get a Best Picture nomination.
Yeah, which is surprising too, because it was just last week where I'm going to have to eat my words on this one, where I said it's about in 6th place, right? Because it's going to win maybe 3 Oscars, and it's going to get multiple nominations across the categories. And the fact that it ended up with only 5 is really surprising. I mean, when it missed writing, the writing was on the wall in terms of it's getting into Best Picture. But yeah, I mean, this is a movie that I thought would be second to Mank in terms of its nominations, and it's in 3rd. It's tied for 3rd.
It's also a little bit cruel because next year they're going to 10, like a flat 10. And it's like, well, why not do that this year? Like, we're only nominating 8. They could have nominated 10. They could have nominated Ma Rainey and maybe One Night in Miami or News of the World, maybe even Soul. But they decided, no, we just want 8. We're gonna leave 2 movies off the list this year.
Yeah, and it's doubly conspicuous because of, and I'm writing an article about, like, because it's an amazing year for diverse nominees for acting, and the Academy is going to crow about that for a while, and rightly so to an extent. Like, it's like Black and Asian representation in those acting categories is kind of remarkable, given the history. But it's sort of like we were discussing this before we started recording. It's sort of like Beyonce at the Grammys, where Beyonce has 28 Grammys, more than any other woman in history. But she almost never wins the top categories. And in this case, you had a lot of the films about Black characters and from Black filmmakers were snubbed for Best Picture. So no To Five Bloods, it only got in for writing or for score. No One Night in Miami, which got 3 nominations. No Ma Rainey, which got 5 nominations. The only film with a Black lead and a Black filmmaker is Judas and the Black Messiah that got into that top category, which is really, if you look back at just earlier in the season, that would have seemed wild. So yeah, it is a little bit of a mixed bag.
And you have to imagine that film Ascending is what made those other 3 films descend in terms of their Best Picture chances. So, I mean, like, we have to take our victories where we get them to a certain extent. And like, it is an amazing year for diversity in the acting and directing and writing categories. Majority non-white men nominated in Best Actor for the very first time. Anthony Hopkins and Gary Oldman are nominated alongside Chadwick Boseman, who's of course the front runner to win, and Stephen Yeun and Riz Ahmed, first time 2 Asian actors have ever been nominated in that category in the same year. 2 Black women nominated in Best Actress for the first time in almost 50 years, with Viola Davis and Andra Day. It is like, I knew that The Five Bloods was sinking. My heart got up when Terence Blanchard was nominated. I thought to myself, okay, it's going to make a comeback. Spike's getting in, Delroy's getting in, the movie's going to get in, and then just category after category after category, it never came back up again. I had a suspicion that One Night in Miami was a little vulnerable, but I still had it in my top 10. I had it even ranked above The Father. I got all 8 Best Picture nominees correct, but you're allowed to make 10 at Gold Derby. And I had both One Night in Miami and Ma Rainey's Black Bottom in there because I at least thought Ma Rainey's was a sure thing.
Well, let's talk about those acting races in terms of, we can talk about who we think will win now. And for weeks I've been saying actor and supporting actor are locked up. Chadwick Boseman for actor, Daniel Kaluuya for supporting actor. But there is a little wrinkle here in supporting actor, and that is the fact that his co-star Lakeith is also nominated, which in our prediction center, he's the only one we didn't call. So if you just went by the odds in Gold Derby's prediction center, you would have got 19 out of 20 acting nominees correct. So Daniel, what do you think about this whole, is there a vote split for supporting actor? We always talk about vote splits. I don't think so. I think when you have a really strong contender, which Daniel is, it's not gonna, Lakeith is not gonna steal enough votes to keep Daniel Kaluuya from winning.
I think that's probably right. I think, especially because Daniel Kaluuya is the only one of them who has been getting in at all these other awards, like the Golden Globes, SAG Awards, Critics' Choice. Like he's the clear momentum on his side, and he'll probably keep winning, like SAG and BAFTA, and so that momentum will probably be enough. It's just weird. And like the fact that we even have the possibility of a vote split for Best Supporting Actor between the 2 title characters of a film for supporting actor, it's like I understand the strategy of it, being pushing Daniel Kaluuya supporting because you can see the film as Lakeith Stanfield's story, but there's no. And they were campaigning him as a lead. So like the Academy went out of their way to put him in supporting, even though these are the 2 clear lead actors of the film. I don't know how they manage it. Like they're more the leads of that movie than Viola Davis is in Ma Rainey, who was nominated for Best Actress. And it's really, really bizarre. But I do think there is a chance of a vote split, but I don't know if there's a clear enough alternative to benefit from that. Like, I feel like maybe some people would go with Sacha Baron Cohen, some might go with Leslie Odom, some might go with Paul Raci, who's in a Best Picture nominee now, and that film did, as well or better than we expected. So
Yeah,
it's just weird.
This is the first time in a dozen years that they ignored an Oscar campaign, and that was Kate Winslet, The Reader. We always wonder if they're going to do it. With Carol, we thought they might do it, but this is the first official time they've done it since that.
And it's the first time they've done it in this direction, because it's usually someone campaigned in supporting, and they're like, no, you're a lead, like, Kate Winslet and Keisha Castle Hughes in Whale Rider. So now it's just like, no, you're not the lead title character with the most screen time in the movie. You're supporting too.
I guess it was one of those things where they said, hey, everybody can go supporting. And maybe Dominique Fishback was considered the lead of the movie. That's why she didn't get nominated.
No, Martin Sheen was the lead actor of Judas and the Black Messiah.
Oh, God, could you imagine? Yeah, I actually sort of think this helps Lakeith. I think Lakeith being nominated helps Daniel Kaluuya because it shows an overwhelming support for the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we knew that Kaluuya was a done deal, and I think the reason why we didn't predict all 20 acting contenders is because I don't believe that Lakeith was even in our
I don't think
center
he was
supporting. Yeah, he was in lead
for us. Yeah.
So yeah, we couldn't have predicted him there, even if we wanted to. But I feel like Judas is like the big overperformer of the day in a lot of ways, because it got into places like cinematography where it was sort of on the bubble, unless you were like me and predicted it. But that's one of the only times I'm going to pat myself on the back today in terms of my predictions. But I feel like the fact that he's in there isn't going to be a vote split situation, because Kaluuya has, he's won the Golden Globe, he's won Critics' Choice, he's probably going to win SAG, and he's at BAFTA, right? I mean, I can never,
Mm-hmm.
So he's probably going to win BAFTA.
Win everything.
Yeah, I think that it's just, he's going to sweep throughout the season. Where I wonder about there being a potential upset now is in Best Actor, because of The Father overperforming like it did, getting into Best Picture where it was sort of, ranked low in our odds, but also getting into not just supporting actress and screenplay where we're all predicting it, but also film editing where it missed out at the Guild, production design where it missed out at the Guild. This movie's a major contender, and Hopkins could very easily win BAFTA. And Boseman, is in a movie that, like we've been saying, has underperformed, did not get into a ton of categories that we were predicting. So, I mean, I don't know. Is there an opportunity there for an upset?
No.
Okay, fine. Well,
I think there is, and I think there's also the case that they didn't nominate Chadwick Boseman for Da 5 Bloods, where they could have, which is in large part because clearly not many Academy members saw Da 5 Bloods. But it seemed like if sentiment was driving a lot of it, then he would have gotten the 2. Like he got at SAG. He got 4 at SAG because he's nominated for both ensembles too. So I that also does help him in a way, because now there's one option if you want to vote for Chadwick Boseman. I think he's still the front runner, but I think with literally every other actor in his category being a Best Picture nominee does put a little bit of a question mark on it, because you got to be wary of it. Just Anthony Hopkins, Riz Ahmed, Gary Oldman's not going to win, but Steven Yeun probably not going to win. But again, Best Picture nominees and not Ma Rainey.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Speaking of Ma Rainey, Viola Davis got nominated for Best Actress, as did Carey Mulligan, Frances McDormand, Andra Day, Vanessa Kirby. I've been saying Carey Mulligan for a while, even though that weird BAFTA snub happened. I'm just going to ignore that and pretend it didn't happen, because I think she is going to win SAG and she's going to win the Oscar. But what do you guys think? Am I wrong to discount that BAFTA snub or not?
I kind of feel like this became a race between Carey Mulligan and Frances McDormand.
Oh,
Who
because of
could,
BAFTA?
yeah, because of BAFTA, where I think she's going to win over Vanessa Kirby, because Nomadland performed generally better overall. The Nomadland and Promising Young Woman are the only movies that got in for directing, acting, writing, and film editing, right? Those sort of like those main categories that we look at in terms of what's going to make a Best Picture winner. I think so that is what makes the two of them feel like they're like the main competitors for this prize. I know Andra Day won the Golden Globe, but that's the only thing she's won, and she's not nominated at SAG or BAFTA, so she has nowhere else that she can compete. And she's the only nomination for her movie, as is Vanessa Kirby for Pieces of a Woman. There's a chance that somebody like Viola Davis could upset at SAG, since they
SAG loves her.
SAG loves her. They love the movie more than the Academy did. But, I would say to Carey Mulligan, watch out for Frances McDormand, because she's in a movie that, I would say is the Best Picture frontrunner. I think that Minari is neck and neck with it, depending on how SAG Ensemble goes and how all the other guilds start chiming in. But McDormand is the heart and soul of this movie. And for people who don't realize that she's also a producer on the film, and would win an Oscar either way, I could see, it's not outside the realm of possibility for them to mark her down for a third.
Yeah, I think Viola Davis did get hurt by Ma Rainey's underperformance, and I do think it's probably now two race between Carey and Frances as well. I do think Carey has a decisive advantage, just because not only is Nomadland, is she a producer on it, which gives her a chance to win that way, but it also feels like the narrative around Nomadland is Chloe Zhao, whereas the narrative around Promising Young Woman, while Emerald Fennell is also for directing and writing, is a huge part of it. So much of it is Carey Mulligan. And her as the centerpiece of this movie, and just the anger and trauma that her character is processing in that film, that I feel like it's much more where you go to support Promising Young Woman, and director and maybe picture are where you go to support Nomadland.
Well, I will say I also have Promising Young Woman predicted to win original screenplay.
Yeah, could happen. Yep.
And Nomadland is my prediction for adapted screenplay. So, that makes the movies feel even more neck and neck for me.
And I don't know if it's ever happened before to have women win both writing races, but I do know that no woman has won either writing race since Diablo Cody.
Yeah.
It's been 13 or 14 years since a woman has won, not even a female co-writer on a film with multiple male writers or something.
Wow.
No woman has won for writing in more than a decade. So I think we're almost guaranteed to get at least one.
Yeah, that would be.
Because even if Chloe Zhao is upset for screenplay, it could be Emerald. Even if Emerald loses, Chloe. So we'll see what happens. It could still go to all dudes.
So, Best Supporting Actress is probably the most exciting acting race we've had at the Oscars in years. And I just want to mention the nominees: Ye Jung-yoon, Minari, Olivia Coleman, The Father, Maria Bakalova, Borat 2, Amanda Seyfried, Mank, and Glenn Close, Hillbilly Elegy. When Maria Bakalova's name came on, it was the very first nominee announced today in any category. And I could just hear Charlie Bright screaming from Washington, D.C. He was so excited. Who do you think is winning this? This is a crazy category, just because of a lot of these people have been snubbed at previous precursors. And right now the odds, as of yesterday, they said that Ye Jung-yoon was going to win. And I kind of agree with that, but I may be able to be swayed.
Yeah, I first off, I want to thank you for not saying the entire title of the Borat film.
Gosh. How
Just because
annoying was
God-
that?
it was
God bless.
it took so long. Like half of the nominations presentation was announcing that film for best screenplay. Just
Yeah.
because every word in the title and every writer on that, all 50 writers on that film, they're still reciting the names for best adapted screenplay.
God bless Priyanka Chopra Jonas for because she had both of those categories
Mhm.
with Borat, and so she had a mouthful. But also she got to announce her White Tiger writer director Ramin Barani for his nomination there, which is pretty cool, I would say. As a Ramin Barani fan.
I love Ramin Barani, and I wrote an article earlier last week speculating like there's usually like a lone screenplay nominee, and it's usually a lot of times it's a really cool nominee, like films like The Lobster, 20th Century Women, Margin Call, these really films that get really great writing nominations and get in nowhere else, and this year that's The White Tiger.
So, but supporting actress though, we kind of got off topic because I don't think any one of us wants to say who we're predicting right now.
Well,
Go
I
ahead,
will say that you go for it.
Who, me?
Yeah.
Well, what makes this race so weird is that the Globe winner is not nominated. Jodie Foster for The Mauritanian. It's strange to say that she is the Aaron Taylor Johnson of this season, but
Yeah.
there you go. So that throws a wrinkle in it. I think that Minari, it didn't overperform, but it did get those 6 nominations, and
The editing snub really hurt it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And cinematography too. I had it predicted there because I just thought it was so beautiful to look at and it would be recognized. But it is a Best Picture front runner. She could win at SAG and BAFTA, but also Maria Bakalova is the story of the year, right? And she's this fresh newcomer who's in a movie that they liked well enough to give a writing nomination. Nothing else though. So I could see this being a neck and neck race between the two of them. But
your girl Glenn.
I know, and this season has been so weird. Just like I could see her winning this without winning any other precursor.
Oh yeah,
especially since her 1988 rival Jodie Foster is no longer in the running. But I really think Olivia Coleman is helped by the father overperforming and hurt by the fact that she's not nominated at BAFTA. I think Amanda Seyfried, we could all agree, is maybe in 5th place. Even though her movie got the most nominations of any person in the category, it's just watch her be like the winner for Mank. Wouldn't that be just so bizarre?
Yeah, I don't think that would be all that surprising. Honestly, I would say the front runner is Ya Jung-yoon for Minari. She's the only person who's gotten everything, at least nominations. She hasn't won yet, but that's a Mark Rylance situation.
I think Maria Bakalova's gotten everywhere too.
Well, Yoo Jung-yoon was snubbed at the Globes.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, but she's gotten everything since then.
Yeah, Maria has as well. I still don't think Maria Bakalova is going to be their thing for the win. I think maybe the closest threat is still Olivia Coleman. I don't put as much stock in the BAFTA snub just because of the way they voted for their acting nominations this year. And I think Glenn Close could still get it just because, like, looking at this category and the way it's fluctuated over the whole season, like, voters could just throw up their hands and go like, fine, here, just take it.
It will be really sad if Glenn Close loses again, because I think, and I apologize if my history is wrong here because I was up very early this morning. With her 8th nomination, I think she is like the most nominated actor without a win at this point. Richard Burton and Peter O'Toole both had 7. And died without winning. And it'll be so sad to watch her lose again. I really, say what you will about Hillbilly Elegy, but like Glenn Close should have 1 Oscar. She should have had.
He was the best part of the movie.
Yeah,
I actually liked Hillbilly Elegy. I didn't love it, but I came away from that thinking, okay, if Glenn Close finally wins an Oscar for this, who would say no? Like, who would be like, she
The
doesn't deserve it?
Razzies. She would be the first. She might be like. It wouldn't be the first film to like win a Razzie and an Oscar, but like I don't think anyone has won an Oscar for a performance they also got a Razzie nomination for. Not that they're that relevant in terms of predicting, the Oscar results, but it's such an unusual circumstance.
The Razzies just did that to get publicity. They don't think that she was giving a bad performance.
Well, they also didn't have a whole lot to choose from as somebody who looked at their nominating ballot. So, but yeah, you're right. I mean, like nominating Glenn Close for a Razzie is just, some next level trolling. Yeah.
I will say the weirdest thing about Best Supporting Actress in the Oscar nominations is after this entire season, how nothing was really surprising. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, like Maria Bakalova might have been on the bubble because this is their kind of film, but she got in. Close seemed vulnerable because that film is, shall we say, not popular with critics. But she got in. Everyone else had missed one place or the other, and they all got in who we were kind of expecting would get in. So, like, yeah, there was nothing left field in Best Supporting Actress, which seems like this is the only place in the Oscar season where nothing left field happened in Best Supporting Actress.
Well, we kind of skipped over director, but I mean, Chloe Zhao has that locked up, right? I mean, is there anyone that could possibly take her down here? There was a surprising nomination, though. Thomas Vinterberg, another round.
Yeah.
He was in 10th place in our Gold Derby predictions.
I'm so mad at myself because I knew Sorkin wasn't going to get nominated. I just couldn't decide between putting in either Thomas Vinterberg or Darius Martyr. I ended up going with Darius Martyr, and I'll never forgive myself. But considering how well Sound of Metal performed overall, I'm not going to be too hard on myself for picking him. I think that the noteworthy story is the fact that this is the first time in history that 2 women have been nominated, and every single year we talk about like who's going to get that female director slot, as if there's only one that can be allocated. And I hope that this can just put an end to that as a conversation point forever, and just it can be women are competing for Best Director, and there's no limit on how many will be nominated in a given year. Now, knowing the Academy and how it took how after Catherine Bigelow won, it took another 8 years for them to nominate another woman, despite like nominating films directed by women for Best Picture. I'm not going to get my hopes up too much about them following through with that for a while. But again, like we have to take our victories where we can get them. And the fact that both Chloe Zhao and Emerald Fennell are nominated this year, and the fact that Chloe Zhao is the front runner to win, I think is very significant, and should bode as a sign of encouragement for women filmmakers everywhere.
Yeah, I think Chloe has it sewn up. I do think I do too worry that like we're gonna have like, because the Oscars have done it before in other arenas where like there's like this really unfortunate snapback, like after the 12 Years a Slave win, the It's Time narrative, and it won Best Picture. Like there was a sense that the Oscar voters like mission accomplished, because the very next year was Oscars So White. So it was, we could end up with just an entirely male slate again next year, potentially, because women are still underrepresented as directors in general. So you can't get nominated if you're not, even in the race. So, it's too early to tell, because I honestly have no idea what's been in the running for this coming year, other than what was delayed from this year, like films like Dune and West Side Story and In the Heights.
All films directed by men.
The 2022 Oscars are too male already.
We're making a comeback,
but time will tell, but I do think this is a really great moment. It would have been really cool to see majority female directors nominated, because that really would have felt like a tipping point, as opposed to still like a couple of slots. Is like so historic. You've never gotten 2 slots before, ladies. You're welcome. Uh, but yeah, I think Chloe has this sewn up. Mank's underperformance, I think, kind of killed that one for directing, especially no editing. Mm-hmm. Emerald Fennell, I think her best shot is for writing. Thomas Vinterberg is amazing that he got in. The third, I believe the third director to be nominated without their film getting in for Best Picture, after Foxcatcher and Cold War. Yeah. So that's really cool, and I love that film. But yeah, I feel like the way that race shook out, and even Aaron Sorkin, if that film could potentially win Best Picture, and I think it still could, because it did exactly what Green Book did in the nominations.
Well, let's talk about picture, because we kind of skipped over what we're predicting.
Well, can I say something about the directing category real quick before we move on? Because I do want to, like Spike Lee was a front runner all season long until the precursors started coming out. And I do want to, feeling like we accomplished that. I feel like that was maybe how they felt after they gave him the Oscar for Black Klansman. Like, we never have to worry about that again. I hope that's not the case. But you can see his impact on American cinema by the fact that 2 of his NYU students, Chloe Zhao and Shaka King, both have films nominated for Best Picture this year.
And they're both multiple nominees, even though Shaka's not up for directing.
So, I mean, he is up for writing, which is great.
Producing,
yeah. So, I hope that Black Klansman wasn't the end of Spike Lee's tenure at the Oscars. But, his impact on American cinema and filmmakers of not just this generation of Zhao and Shaka King, but generations to come is certainly felt. So while it stings to have taken him out of my predictions finally at the last moment, and to see that come to fruition, it's the Academy. Look, it's bad for the Academy to not have him and the Five Bloods nominated. And this is a really great Best Director lineup, by the way. There's not a single person in this category who I would have taken out to replace him with. We need more nominees and directors, the point.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've been on this Minari train for a while, thinking it would win Best Picture, but that editing snub we mentioned really hurts. It did get actor, it did get supporting actress and director and screenplay, but I think I'm gonna just go with the flow and pick Nomadland, which did get editing. It got everything it needed, Nomadland did. It didn't necessarily overperform, but it got 6, which is, fair number. And I will say this, if Minari wins SAG Ensemble, which I think it will, and if it wins Producers Guild, then I will switch to Minari. But as of right now, I'm putting Minari down in second, and I'm going to put Nomadland in first place.
I'm actually, so my guild card right now is I have Nomadland winning DGA, I have Minari winning SAG Ensemble, and I have Trial of the Chicago 7 winning PGA. That just, it seems like a PGA winner. It's prestigious producers. It was a big production, and a production with a long history. So I could see that sort of taking that. But I do believe this is a race between Nomadland and Minari, and it's Nomadland's to lose at this point. Unless, like you say, Marcus, if Minari were to upset at PGA,
right, that would be a big narrative.
Yeah, exactly. I think that it's so funny because I predicted a spoiler in supporting actor, but I predicted the wrong spoiler. I predicted David Strathairn, and so that was the only acting nominee that I got wrong. Humble brag, got 19 out of 20. But I thought for a second they were going to go with him when, right before they read Lakeith's name because of alphabetical, right?
Oh, yeah.
But, Nomadland, it wasn't a major, double-digit nominee, but it got into tech categories. It got into above the line categories. It's got pretty much everything you need to be a Best Picture winner. We just need to see if, it's going to be a victim of over expectations, right? Because we see this all the time with these smaller, more intimate movies that are the Best Picture frontrunner. I'm thinking of things like Boyhood, for instance, where once it becomes a frontrunner, Oscar voters watch it and they say, really? Well, I'm going with something a little bit more traditional, like Trial of the Chicago 7, for instance. I think, though, Trial is hurt by things like Daniel Kaluuya overtaking Sacha Baron Cohen in supporting actor, or Emerald Fennell possibly winning screenplay over Aaron Sorkin. So it starts to like chip away at the number of things that it can possibly win. But that's my long rambling way of saying that I'm picking Nomadland for now until I potentially switch over to Minari again.
I was predicting Nomadland before this. I still am, pending what the guilds do. I think Minari could win the SAG award. I also think Trial of the Chicago 7 could do that. And I think Trial of the Chicago 7 does look potentially good for Producers Guild nomination. I'm wary of, even with Aaron Sorkin's snub for Best Director, Trial of the Chicago 7 is looking so much like Argo and Green Book, because Green Book also got everything it needed except for director. It got in editing, writing, acting, and it overtook films that had everything to win Best Picture. And if Trial of Chicago 7 wins Best Picture, I think it's going to pull an Argo and win screenplay and editing as its other two. So I'm so wary of that film still. And because the film isn't the front runner, it's not having those same kind of expectations. And it's sort of like this traditional rousing, crowd pleasing, courtroom drama that you'd expect to be more of an Oscar kind of movie. Could also be hurt by the Netflix factor if there's still some bias against it. The only 2 Netflix movies actually made the Best Picture lineup after it seemed like there could be as many as 4. So like if voters are like, we're still not into Netflix, then Nomadland. And then I would say the next tier right behind are Minari and Promising Young Woman, because Promising also got the big 4: acting, writing, directing, and editing, along with Nomadland. It feels less likely to win Best Picture to me, but I think it has to be considered a strong contender because of those nominations.
When you were going backwards from if Trial wins Picture, what else would it win? Doing that with Minari, I mean, it's going to win. Let's say it wins Picture. It'll also probably win Supporting Actress and Original Screenplay. And is that it?
I think it would have to win Screenplay, because
it would have to, yeah.
Yeah, for a movie that is not like a huge, because I think the last movie that won Best Picture without winning either screenplay or director was Gladiator, and that was a great big technical juggernaut. It only won 5 out of I think 12 nominations, Gladiator, but it won an acting prize and it won 3 tech awards. So it had enough to kind of make up for that deficit in writing and directing. But yeah, I mean, I guess like I would say score was a possibility since it got into that, and it's a beautiful score. But I think Soul has probably got that sort of in the bag at this point. Yeah, I mean, like here's the thing though, like predicting Best Picture in the preferential ballot, like we've seen all these movies win with these tiny number of victories overall, right? Whereas things like Gravity and La La Land have won the lion's share of prizes. The day of the big Oscar sweeper is long past until the preferential ballot is done away with. So it's not inconceivable that something like Minari could win Best Picture and Best Supporting Actress. It's not inconceivable that it could win Best Picture and nothing else, just because of how bizarre the preferential ballot makes it. Remember, it's like your number 1 votes, but then your number 2 and number 3s are also as important. And I feel like that movie could be a lot of people's number 2 or number 3 vote. Now, I feel the same way about Nomadland and Trial of Chicago 7, which I think makes them sort of neck and neck for that. Promising Young Woman, I feel like could be a bit more of a, I don't want to say divisive movie because it did get 6 nominations, but I could see a lot of people being turned off by that and maybe ranking it dead last.
Yeah, I could
But
see that.
I do think it's like any film that I'm going to be predicting to win actress and screenplay, I'm going to have to rank high up in my best picture predictions. Right.
Nomadland 2 is a little bit controversial in terms of people finally seeing it after all these months, and maybe it doesn't live up to their hype or their hopes or expectations. But I don't know, does that mean people may rank it low? I don't know. I am not good at predicting best picture in this era. I have not gotten it right the past several years, so I really want to get it right this year.
Yeah.
And it looks like Nomadland is the way to go as of today, March 15th.
I feel like I could. Oh, go ahead, Daniel.
And I was just gonna say, the whole preferential ballot thing does throw a wrench into it. I do feel like of all of the films in that top tier, Minari is the one that seems the least likely to rank low on ballots.
Right.
Like it just feels, it's such a hug of a movie, like just this warm, lovely, sentimental, but not like, maudlin movie that's really, really gonna be, I think, if it's not your favorite movie, it's gonna be in your top 3 or 4.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I can see people ranking Trial low, I can see people ranking Nomadland low, I can see people ranking Promising Young Woman low. But again, I would have thought people would have ranked, there would have been enough people to rank Green Book low that would have, that it wouldn't have necessarily won. Like, even if it had a lot of supporters, like I thought it would have enough detractors that it wouldn't necessarily be a thing. So you never know.
And we should also say, like, you can win Best Picture with just enough number 1 votes on the first round, which is what I think happened last year. I think that Parasite won on the first round with enough number 1 votes because it had such passionate support. And I could see Nomadland being that movie that gets, I think it's 51% or 50% plus 1, whatever crazy math it is that they work out for this.
They invented new math just
exactly.
for one category.
But I could see Nomadland being that film, considering that it's going to win director and probably adapted screenplay. So it's probably the front runner in cinematography right now and a potential winner for best actress. I could see this being like a first round number 1 winner, and then that's that. But we don't know because it's so, there's no way to really tell what kind of year it's going to be in that regard.
Well, I think we have rambled long enough. The sun's just about to come out here. So I want to thank everyone for watching, and we will be doing many more of these in the next month and a half until the Oscars air on ABC. They still haven't announced if there will be a host or not, so I'm assuming that means there won't be. But thanks everyone for watching. Go to Gold Derby right now and make your winner predictions for the Oscars. You could also predict things like the BAFTAs and all of those guilds. There's like 10 guild award events in our prediction center you can predict, as well as some reality shows. So thanks everyone for watching. Come back. We'll see you again.